listeners, and welcome back to Chasm Converses. This week my guest is solo artist Rachel Trainor, otherwise known as Nighteyes, and she joins me from Melbourne, Australia. We talk about her move from New Zealand to Melbourne with her band Honeybone, touring with a Circus as a session musician, playing fringe festivals in Adelaide and Edinburgh, and collaborating with London-based artist Laurie Black. We also talk about her newly released single, Plenty, from her upcoming debut album, The Way Back Down. She also shares with us a behind-the-scenes fact about one of the Lord of the Rings movies. So join us and let's get conversing. Chasm Converses. Rachel Trainor, welcome to Chasm Converses.
Hi. It's good to be here.
It's so cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's so awesome to meet you. Whereabouts, I know that you're in Australia right now. Whereabouts in Australia are you joining me from?
From Melbourne.
Ah, sweet. Awesome. I love Melbourne.
Yeah, so the sun has just come out. It's been a bit of a crap day. And
Does
then
it
the sun
really?
has just come out. Yeah, just a little bit like dreary.
Yeah.
Classic Melbs, but now the sun's come out, so that's really good.
That's so crazy. Like, what time is it over then? I ask this a bit because, like, I get people from, like, Brisbane, Sydney, then obviously even, like Croatia, Russia, London and stuff. But, like, what time is it over there at the moment?
It's 6 p.m.
Oh, wow. So it wouldn't even be dark there yet. That is so weird.
No. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And what time is it for you?
It's 8 o'clock in the morning in London.
Oh, wow.
So, it's like so weird. Like, because I think the clocks must have gone back or forth in, like, the last week, and I just have not clicked into the fact that has happened. Because usually it's it's around about like 3.5 hours or something like around. Well, no. Usually it's like 8.5 to 9 hours behind we are. But now I think it's like 10 and a half. So I've lost like 2 hours.
Yeah. Oh, it's so confusing. It's so confusing.
But either way, I am so excited to talk to you about yourself, about your music, your newest single, and obviously your upcoming album, which is only a few weeks away now, which is quite exciting. So
I know.
Oh man, it's gonna be such a good chat. I can't wait. Anyway, I'd love to ask you about yourself. Like, how did you kind of get started in music? Was it something that you always wanted to kind of do, or was it something that you fell into a bit later on in life?
I think I've always been a lover of music. I come from a musical family. So my oldest brother, Nate, he's 15 years older than me, and he started drumming when I was like 3.
Oh, wow.
So we always kind of had drums around. He would come home from uni and bring his drum kit, and I would be like, whoa.
Yeah, wow.
And I always wanted to, like, I'm a child of the 90s, so I loved like all of the pop bands, Spice Girls, Backstreet Boys, like all them. I just wanted to be a singer so much. Yeah. And then by the time I got to high school, like, I'm from a really small town actually in New Zealand. So
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I didn't get the chance to actually learn any musical instrument until I went to high school, and they did like the little 20-minute music lessons through my music teacher. So I learned to play the drums first.
Cool.
And I still play the drums pretty regularly. And then I sort of was always singing as well. And then a year later, I was like, okay, I think I need to learn an instrument that's musical in some way to give me some knowledge and stuff. So that's when I learned guitar. And I still think of myself as a very kind of rudimentary guitarist. Like, I can play rhythm and stuff. I'm definitely not a lead player, but
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
There's so much in there.
So that's like 20 years now, I think, of playing music. So
wow, that's awesome. That's there's so much in there to unpack. I had to write it all down. So I'm like, all right, there's like so many things here to branch out from. I love the pop influence because I'm very much similar. Like, I was more so like 2000s and stuff, but I grew up with an older sister, and a mother who was a gym instructor. So like I had the Britney Spears, the Christina Aguilera, the Backstreet Boys, Five, that same kind of like era of pop that is just still so golden. Like I still want to sort of do something with that because that's like a harnessed like influence of my own. But I love that you've got that same kind of influence as well, because it really does just like, you see those people sing when you're younger, you're kind of like, I want to do that. Even though it looks like, when you're younger, it looks kind of silly because you're kind of like, I don't really know what all this kind of dancing and all this sort of stuff kind of is, but it's kind of like, oh no, it looks like everyone's having fun there. So that'd be sweet. I would love to ask you, because you're from New Zealand, like Atara, whereabouts in New Zealand are you from?
I'm from a small town called Alexandria, which is in central Otago. So down South Island, it's like an hour away from Queenstown.
Oh,
so
sweet. Awesome.
Right around where Lord of the Rings was filmed is where I grew up. So
brilliant.
Yeah. So when they were actually filming when I was like, I think I was 10.
Oh my
when
goodness.
all of that was happening in the region. So it was all very exciting. There's the scene, like those are my favorite movies. I love them.
Yeah,
and there's a scene at the end of the first one when Frodo's like leaving on the lake and Sam's like, no, I'm coming after you.
Yeah.
So there's a bit where he's like kind of falls in the water and he can't swim.
Mm-hmm.
And that scene was actually filmed in the swimming pool at the end of my street, which was really exciting.
No freaking way.
I know, yeah, because it was like a blue, like really deep diving pool that was blue. Yeah. So they could green screen it, I guess.
Oh my goodness. That's like that might be the most interesting fact I've ever heard on this podcast come out someone's mouth. That's incredible. Yeah,
it's sad that the pool's not there anymore. It's a bit sad. It got flooded and got wrecked by the floods. But
damn.
Yeah, no, but it's cool. It's like my little claim to fame. I'm like, I used to swim in that pool. I've been there.
That's so incredible. I love that. Like, I mean, my dad's from New Zealand, so all his family and all that kind of stuff kind of live over there. They're more so Tauranga, North Island, and then his sister is in Milton, which is like a small village outside Dunedin in the South Island. And I was able to, so I got to go to, I've been there a few times, but I got to go to Queenstown as well, which isn't too far from where you guys are. And that's such a beautiful place. Like,
it's beautiful because that's where we always fly in and out of there. So you get like a scenic flight every time if it's not a cloudy day. Like just flying over the Alps is just gorgeous.
Oh man, it absolutely lives in me, that moment. And like, I mean, Lord of the Rings, I think I've literally talked about Lord of the Rings on here before. I talked about it with Emmy Mac because she was like a massive Lord of the Rings fan too. But like, I'm a huge fan of the movies too. I always make it a thing to watch the Lord of the Rings movies whenever I go to New Zealand because I know that I can literally start watching it, and by the time it finishes, I'm pretty much almost there.
Right. Wow, that's such a good idea.
Yeah, it's usually around like 4 hours or almost 4.5 hours long. So then if you start watching Return of the King, you're almost going to be like right at the ballpark.
Yeah, such a good idea. I should do that next time I'm flying up your way.
No, that's so wonderful. So like, when did you move from New Zealand over to Australia then?
I moved in 2012. So like the start of 2012, I was living in Dunedin and I did the music degree at Otago Uni down there.
Cool.
And then me and my partner and our friend, we have a band. We still have our band.
Sick. Awesome.
Yeah, called Honeybone. And we decided we wanted to take it outside of Dunedin. We were all kind of finishing uni and looking for the next step and kind of just made the move together to Melbourne because we thought it would be a good place to be for music. And it really has.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's been amazing. Yeah, like we've met some great people. We've done some good shows. And after, we've all done other things as well throughout that. So yeah, it's been great. I love Melbourne. I feel like I'll never leave.
I've never had a bad time in Melbourne. I've been there quite a few times. Like I used to live in Adelaide back in the day.
Great,
it was great. And obviously Melbourne is next door. So, and I've been in bands and stuff myself. So we'd do the old travel to Melbourne, play a couple of gigs in like different venues and stuff. And literally never had a bad time in Melbourne. But I love the fact that you guys took the chance to move from New Zealand over to Melbourne mainly because of like the whole like, let's like do some more music with this band. It's awesome that you guys are all on the same page of wanting to go over and do that.
Yeah, it's so funny. I hadn't even been to Melbourne. I'd like never been here before. I was like, oh, cool, that'd be fun. Our bass player's sister had moved here previously. So I think he was like excited to be seeing her again. And then I think my ex-boyfriend had moved here like a couple of years before that.
Yeah.
So I knew that it was like a place that musicians go.
Yeah, for sure. It's a massive scene too. It's so big. Like it's you don't expect it to be so vast. But how was like the transition for you moving from obviously like somewhere like that into Melbourne? Because it is quite big. Like Melbourne is.
Yeah. It was pretty wild. We kept to the like real inner suburbs at first. So I don't think I really ever got the scope of how big Melbourne was until we got a car and started doing some trips around, going to the Mornington Peninsula and going out to the countryside and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, this place is huge. It takes you like a whole hour just to get out of town. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't too bad though. I think because I was only 22, I was so ready for a change. I was so ready to branch out and figure out what I was doing and who I was, and meeting new people. So yeah, it was weirdly not actually that shocking. I don't know. It seems like it would be coming from like a 5,000 person town to then Dunedin, which is like, a small city. A big town, really, Dunedin.
Yeah, for sure.
Really
I mean, sometimes
city,
I guess like the time just kind of feels right to move into a bigger place, or as you say, sort of just expand into going somewhere else. I was the same, moving from Adelaide to London, like, from Adelaide into London is a completely different culture shock. It is fucked, to say the least. Yes. But like, sometimes you just feel like the time's right to sort of shift and make that transition and step into like a bigger kind of world. So it's so great that like you were able to do that, but you're obviously able to do that with your partner and with your band and that kind of thing as well. So like, I guess when you like, when you moved over into Melbourne with your band Honeybone, did you guys obviously like kind of start gigging and play some shows and stuff? And then did this Nighteyes kind of solo project of yourself kind of branch out from the band sort of as time progressed?
Yeah, I've always written songs that weren't suitable for Honeybone. And I kind of was doing like in Dunedin, like for my uni, we had to do songwriting, and I was kind of writing these like singer-songwriter type songs and stuff. But it wasn't really like, I was like, I don't want to be just like another girl with an acoustic guitar. I wanted to do something a little bit, not there's anything wrong with that, but I felt like I was like, I need to stand out. I need to find a sound. And then and we were doing Honeybone gigs, like we moved and picked up a few like little kind of pay to play showcase gigs.
Oh, cool.
That were a bit crappy, but then through that we met people and then just started playing and got shows and doing that stuff. And I'd always kind of had this idea of like, one day I'm going to do this solo thing, one day. And I was just kind of like, the odd one day, one day I'll do it. And I was just looking for a sound, I think. And then in 2013, I stumbled upon Chelsea Wolfe's album, Pain is Beauty. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? This is amazing. Like, this woman is like everything that I feel like I've been looking for, like just, really beautiful, dark, but also kind of like folky, but then kind of got some electronic vibes in there as well. Heavy guitars. Like it's just lots of genre mashing that I find really interesting. And then that kind of set me down this path of sort of making like darker music. Because Honeybone, we were kind of like started out as like a kind of garage band, and now we're sort of more like a sort of psychedelic kind of band. And there's some dark elements to it, but I think Nighteyes has more of a darker kind of more ethereal kind of feeling to it. Right. It's not so much I kind of like it because I've left it really wide open in terms of genres for places to explore.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea. I think that's a great idea. Because you obviously, because sometimes, especially when you've just started to write, record or that kind of stuff, like, I know, especially I think you're also one of those people that might have a lot of different like likings of a lot of different genres as well. And so you kind of do want to sort of dip into each one and sort of see which one kind of suits you the best. I mean, as I said, so far, like the songs that you have written, the ones that I was able to listen to maybe a couple of days ago, like, they're quite dark and folky and they've got some kind of doom aspect to them, but they are quite like, I do like them. There's something about them that just makes you want to kind of keep on listening, like, oh, there's something a bit more to this, and then there is a little bit something more to it, which is quite exciting. So and obviously like big props to you for like wanting to actually go out and do a solo project, because I mean, I think one of the hardest things with bands, especially because my band dealt with this as well, is like sometimes you've got people from all different backgrounds, like you all have little things you also want to sort of experiment on yourself, and that can obviously, like, you're taking time away from the band to go and do your own thing and whatever. But as a musician, I think it's just needed to happen so you can explore that side of you and experiment with it. And as I said, I think you've got something really good with Nighteyes. So like, big props to you for being able to go out and to do that.
Yeah, thanks. So obviously, it has taken a bit of time away from doing Honeybone. Like, our last album was in 2020 that we released it, which was a crazy time to release an album, especially in Melbourne.
How did you even go about doing that? That would have been just like, I mean, very stressful, but was it like well
Yeah.
received? Like, how did it sort of pan out?
Yeah, it was pretty good. We didn't get to do a launch show, but because we put it out on vinyl and it was our first vinyl record, so lots of people were just interested in buying that, which was really cool. And then it was kind of the end of 2020, so we snuck in a few gigs here and there throughout the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, since then, like I also play like music professionally in different kind of circus shows and stuff.
Oh wow,
so
really?
So I was away touring that. Yeah, I was doing that last year, pretty much all year. So and when I was coming back here, that's when I was recording the Nighteyes album.
Yeah.
So in between tours, I was trying to get it done, and so Honeybone kind of fell a bit by the wayside because there's just not enough time in the day.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But what I love about it is that, you know, it's me and my partner Drew, and our friend Peter. We've been friends forever. Like we know we can always come back to it. It's always gonna, you know, we're all still really keen to do it, but sometimes things just, you know, get in the way or whatever.
Yeah.
And another, my partner Drew, so he's the producer of Nighteyes.
Oh, awesome.
And he's also got his own like electronic techno kind of tech house sort of project that he does that as well.
Cool.
So both of us have kind of gone down these really interesting paths of, like, you know, 8 years ago we were both just in a rock band, you know, and now we're kind of making music that's that's sort of a bit different and not what we would have expected. Like I wouldn't have expected my guitar playing partner to be making beats.
For sure, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's weird how things work out, isn't it? I mean, I don't dwell on it too much, but like, let's go back to this circus thing, because that was just like, that's still just like lingering around in there. So like, as in so what kind of music were you playing? As in like for like when they have the big act going on, or was it like during intervals, or like, and you were touring with it, you said?
Yeah. So my main goal when I moved to Melbourne, not only to do Honeybone, was then to try and get gigs like as a session drummer or a session musician. And I got the opportunity to play at a venue called Dracula's Cabaret Restaurant.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So I don't know if you've heard of it, but it was a big thing. Like, it was very popular in the 90s. They had one in Melbourne and one on the Gold Coast.
I've heard of it now, so here we go.
Yeah. And it's basically just a cabaret show it's like dinner theatre. So we would do that, like, I did that for 2 years. They would have, it was kind of cabaret, like singing and playing, and then they would have aerial acts as well.
Wonderful.
And that was kind of like the people I met through that. After the venue closed down, one of the guys was doing some like David Bowie stuff, and he was like, I want to make a show that's a circus show that has a live band that's all just playing David Bowie music.
Wow.
So we played that at the Adelaide Fringe a couple times, and then last year we went around the country, and then we went to Edinburgh Fringe.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah. And then through that, this is kind of really interesting, because it's kind of how I actually got started with recording and actually doing the Nighteyes thing, was that the producer of the David Bowie show called me in like 2021, and she said, you know, I'm putting together another show, and it's going to be all like women acrobats, and I want you to do the music. So I want there to be just like you playing music. So if you want to, like, you can play drums and sing, or you can do whatever you want. And if you've got any original songs, like, send them through.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was, of course, like really excited. And so I sent her like all the songs that I had demoed, and she picked 3 of them. And then I was like, okay, well, now I have to like record them properly. I have to make backing tracks for them, because it's just me up there. So I need to have backing tracks to play along to. Yeah. And so that's kind of where my first single, Low Light, came from. Like, all the people in the circus show were in the music video.
Cool,
for that one. Yeah, so it all kind of culminated together, which was really great. And that show's really special to me. We got to tour it to Czech Republic this year.
Oh, wow.
Every one of the shows amazing. Yeah, it was wild. It was like 2 shows. We went all the way over there for 2 shows. And I came all the way back.
That must have been quite an experience to go. I mean, obviously, Edinburgh Fringe would have been just insane to be a part of. That was, I mean, it was over here. Obviously, one of my friends worked at Edinburgh Fringe this year, but like, yeah, that's always such a massive, massive experience and massive festival. So that would have been just crazy. Then you went, like all the way to Czech Republic as well to play two shows. Like, oh wow, you're just quite worldly, are we? Awesome.
Yeah, and it's great because I got to, like, especially in the Adelaide shows, like I got to say a little spiel at the end of the show and be like, my music is Nighteyes. Follow me on Instagram,
Yeah.
I got to kind of plug it. Yeah. Unfortunately, I really did want to have like a CD or something to sell by this time this year when we did Adelaide Fringe this year in 2023.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't ready yet. And it's that thing where you don't want to put something out until it's really done.
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely.
So yeah, I put out the other single, In the Wake, which is from the show as well.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
And these songs were already written before the show started, but the song In the Wake, it's wild because like the themes of the show are very like apocalypse, like post-apocalypse world. Everyone's kind of, everyone's all kind of dirty and, like wearing kind of like khaki and stuff. And then all of the themes are kind of about like finding connection in this kind of really harsh environment.
Right. Yeah.
And then In the Wake is like thematically kind of about, like it's similar to my recent single Plenty. It's very much like climate change kind of apocalyptic kind of feel to it. So it was crazy how well that song worked for the show.
Yeah, for sure. No, that sounds absolutely incredible. And like obviously, like Adelaide Fringe that's going to be coming up again in no time soon. So like, damn, you have to come back for sure. Because I might be in Adelaide that time as well. So I'll definitely come and see your show. That'd be sweet. I love how like because I mean people are always looking for things to sell and all the rest of it. I love how vinyl has just become this crazy, just like out of nowhere, like everyone's just been doing like vinyls. I mean, this has been going for like the last couple of years now, where like so many people just like keep doing vinyls and they're just so much in demand and that. And like I don't know if CDs are still at that point either, yet, where they have become heaps more in demand either. But I feel like there must be a time soon where like the nostalgia for wanting CDs, like really physical CDs again, will sort of kick in, and then like I feel like that industry will explode again. Well, I hope it explodes again because I loved collecting CDs when I was much younger. Because like obviously we both grew up with that sort of stuff rather than having streaming services. So like it's so nice to have the compact disc, as well as that you're buying it for like a pretty good price. Like most times it's like what, $20 Australian, something like that. That goes pretty much all to the artists, which is like more money than what they get off any kind of streaming for a song. So
exactly, yeah. It's just such a good way to make money. It shows, and it's crazy because CDs are just so much more portable. You can just put them in your pocket. Whereas, like, if you buy a vinyl at a show, you have to walk around with it all night if you plan on going out later afterwards or something.
Exactly.
So I'm kind of in this like little quandary at the moment where I'm wondering whether it's worth just getting a few like small run of CDs for the album. Like originally I was just planning on it just being a digital release, and if there was some traction, then maybe I would look into doing a physical release. But yeah, I'm kind of wondering. I'm just thinking like maybe I'll just do some. But I don't know. I have a friend who's in London. She's in the UK. I think she sort of sometimes is around London. She's sometimes in Brighton. She kind of flits around everywhere. She's just released her album. Her name's Laurie Black.
Right. I had a question. That's my book. I was going to ask you about her later, great. But no, continue.
So I know Laurie's just done CDs, and because she also is a cabaret performer as well. So I met her doing the Fringe circuit, and she's always selling CDs at her shows. So I think there's maybe a specific type of person that's going to buy a CD. I know my mum really wants one.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I feel like you might even want one yourself, just to be like, this is mine. I did this. This is awesome. Like sometimes just for your own sort of thing you want to say. A little collectible, I suppose. But especially over here in London, I think because there's obviously so many more people, and obviously in Brighton, it's like I'm going there in November, which is going to be awesome. But there's so many like people, and a lot of them are really, especially up in Brighton, a lot of them really do love that nostalgic vintage kind of stuff, like your vinyls and your CDs and that kind of stuff. So they are more willing to just buy a CD and just chuck it in their pocket or slip it into their hoodie pocket and then just like walk around with it all night and just like have a night out. But no, I love the fact that this literally turned into a conversation with about you and Laurie Black, because I was going to ask you about the song that you like featured on for her album, because obviously you're both from like she's from London, you're from New Zealand. I was kind of like, how did that come about?
Yeah. So we met doing a show together in 2018 at Adelaide Fringe for one of our other friends, Anastasia. So we were like in her backing band, and we just became really close. She's such an incredible musician. She's a great writer. She's a wonderful person. And then there was like a couple of years, I think, where I didn't see her because she didn't come back to Adelaide. And then she was here, and she actually was staying in this room after Adelaide this year, and we were talking about doing a collaboration. And then it was around about like June, she wrote this song, this very kind of witchy song about like solstice. I think it was like right around the solstice time.
Yeah, Queen Solstice, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and she sent it to me, and she was like, I want like, I wrote this song for us to sing on my album, and I was like, oh my God, yes, this is so good. It's such a great song. So she was like, I want you to drum on it and I want you to sing on it. And I was like, yeah. She's like, if you want to change anything, like feel free. And I was like, I don't need to. It's so good already.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
So that was really, really fun. I love collaborating with people. It's been, even though it's like, we're just emailing back and forth because of the time and everything like that. But it was a real dream to have that song out, and it sounds so good. And actually Drew mixed that song too. So
I was going to ask, like, how did you go with that recording? Because obviously, like, the vocals, you may have done it at your own things. Did you do the drums? Did you like record the drums where you are now and then send them to her as well, or like did you go back and forth?
Yeah. So I put the drums down.
Love that.
Yeah. I kind of put the drums down in like a little kind of idea of what the vocal would be, and I sent it to her, and I was just like, this is my idea for it. Let me know what you think. And then she was like, yes. So we've got a bit of a home kind of set up here. So makes things very easy to do that type of thing.
Yeah, I crave that. That'd so good. Man. But either way, that's so cool. I love that sort of just turned around into that question, because my next question obviously was going to be asking you about your newest single, Plenty. But obviously came out last week. And obviously you've got your new album coming out on November 10th, which is like, going to be awesome as well. So I'd love to talk to you about your song Plenty. Tell me about it. Like, what was your sort of inspiration behind it? And like, did you have a really smooth recording process and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So, Plenty is, I think I wrote that sometime between 2018 and 2019, I think. I feel like I remember the house where I was in where I wrote it.
Oh, nice.
So that was around there. And that's actually another song that's very kind of, I must have been going through like a climate change, like angry about climate change vibe then. And so, and this is a song that kind of sat in the background for a while until I kind of got to demo it. So I think the hardest part about being a solo artist is that you want to keep control and keep like all the creative decisions. But it's, luckily I can play drums and I can kind of play the bass. Play guitar. So I can do it, but it's a lot harder because you can't jam things out with people. Like, like at the time at the time I didn't have a band or anything. So, so I just kind of had to like just muck around. And it made it take a while, but I got this kind of, I had the first part of it kind of written, and then I never really knew what to end it with until I was actually in Adelaide. I think it was last year, and I had like my electronic drum kit there, and because I drive there from Melbourne, so I take all my gear so I can practice while I'm there.
The girl's 7.5 hour trek.
Because you're there for a whole month. So it's worth it to bring stuff. And I just came up with this like really sort of heavy sort of sounding ending. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, this sounds great. So I was really excited about it. And then what's interesting about the song is that I actually wasn't planning on putting it on the album. Like, it was going to be a weird 6-song kind of EP/album.
Yeah.
Because I thought I didn't have enough time to record the songs. And then it was sort of like the start of this year, maybe February, March. We were kind of in this mixing sort of part of it. And I actually said, I think I want to put Plenty and then another song. I was like, I want to put them on the album. They just feel like they're part of this song cycle. You know, they feel like this group.
Sure.
So then, we kind of had to like, oh, okay, well, let's go record again.
Yeah, good. We'll shove it in
there. Yeah. And I'm so glad I did, because it sounds great. We got some really cool sounds happening in the studio, and the drums, we were really happy with those. What I think is interesting about Plenty is that the way that I think it's almost like a precursor to my other single, In the Wake. It's like Plenty is like, here's what we have now. Like, it's like I had this sort of vision in my head of, it's like that old kind of ritualistic sort of like a group of people just raising their hands up to the, and thanking the earth for all the wonderful things that it provides, I sort of had that kind of thing in my head, and it's almost like, you go from that real old kind of ritualistic sort of setting to then fast forwarding into the second verse after the chorus, where starting to talk about buildings coming up, and there's so many like massive cities everywhere, and there's bright lights and everything like that, and then it's kind of like, how much further can we push this, and then that last part of it is that kind of lament of like, oh no, we ruined it, we broke it. It's gone. And sort of thinking, it's just a remorseful kind of like sadness to it in that last part. And then, In the Wake is kind of like happening a little bit after that,
I love the creative processes that musicians go through with their songs, because I can tell right now just from you explaining it that just how much you've sort of thought about like the song and about the idea about it, and obviously like even just like its structure and its formula. Like it's so cool to see just how much like creativity can go into just like a 3-minute, 4-minute track. And like obviously if this is the way that you've planned out 1 or 2 songs, and obviously when that album comes out, like my goodness, so I mean, it's like there's going to be a lot to take in. But I love that. I love that process and that mentality. It's just such an open book for you just to really explore and really just get an idea down and be like, really formulate it. I love that.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast, Rick Rubin's podcast. He interviewed
legend
John. Yes, it's a good one. There's one where he interviewed John Frusciante. I think it goes over like 4 episodes, this whole interview. God. It's like really long. I listened to it on the drive to Adelaide this year.
Good idea. You literally get to the end.
And John Frusciante is sitting there talking about how when he writes songs, he has like images in his head, like he can see like things, and he sort of writes it out. And I was like, oh man, that happens to me. Like I have like a kind of an image in my head of, for Low Light, it was like this like barren beach with a bonfire and a few people dancing around it, but like there's trees in the background that kind of look a bit spooky. And in The Wake, it's like these people kind of escaping this sort of like fiery shore, and they're kind of on a lake or in an ocean, kind of sailing away, and it's kind of wild how vivid that is. And I didn't really think about it much until I heard that interview. And what I really like about, talking and doing these types of interviews is I actually figure out things in like as I talk that I didn't really realize before, which I think is great.
That's 100% what I do this for. That's great. I try and keep the formula so much more like a conversation rather than like a one-on-one interview of sorts, because then it gives the other person just so much creative freedom to think and really go back to like the start of what they did towards where they are now. And it gives them like an appreciation, but also like a bit of a realization of other ideas they've had and like other things like, oh yeah, this and that, whatever. But like, no, it's so cool. Like, I mean, and for most musicians and most creatives, like, because I get it as well, where like you write something or like you have an idea for a song and already you can see like the music video, you can see the album cover or the single cover. And it's just kind of like, if you've got that sort of if you've got that kind of mindset and you have that sort of creativity, it's kind of like, well, I have to use it because it's like it's there, but also it's not like hard for me to do that. It kind of just comes to me, and if it's that easy, it's sort of like, well, surely I need to do something with this, even if it's like not going to give me the massive riches of like affordability, whatever. It can give me other like riches of more like self exploration, whatever, that kind of thing.
Yes.
No, I love that.
Yeah, I think for me, even if I don't make a single dime off this record and I'm just, in debt forever,
I feel that.
I won't not do it. It's just a thing that I needed to do, and I think it's something I need to continue doing. Is, I just get these ideas and you get them down and they turn into a song, and it's like, I feel like the writing process for me is a lot more enjoyable than the recording process. The recording process, I'm just like, oh God.
Yeah, now I've got to be good. Now I've got to perform.
And also, like, again, I don't really rate myself much as a guitarist. So recording some of the guitars this year took, it's going to take a long time anyway because you want to get the right take. But for me, I was just getting super frustrated because I knew exactly what I wanted the drums to do. And a lot of it's pretty, it's not super complex. But for me, like, I probably don't practice guitar as much as I should. So I was
I'm the same as singing. I'm the exact same as singing.
No, we could all do more of that. I think do more practice, but
100%.
There's time in the day.
Yeah, for sure. We're nearly out of time at the moment, which is insane because this has flowed well, and it's been such a great conversation to have with you. I'm so excited for your album. I think everybody should be excited for your album. So obviously, go listen to Plenty by Nighteyes. It was a wonderful song, and obviously, it's getting a lot of attention, which is awesome to see. It's been so nice to have a chat with you today about all this kind of stuff, like your music and obviously your life, everything like that. Before we go, though, I must ask a question, knowing that you're from New Zealand and knowing that I also support a certain team from New Zealand. Are you a Rugby World Cup watcher?
No.
No.
Sadly, I'm not a sporty gal, but I heard they got into the finals. Is that right?
Yes, it'll be New Zealand. Yeah, it's going to be New Zealand and South Africa this weekend. I can't remember if it's Sunday or Saturday, but one of those 2 days.
That's exciting. That's so cool.
So it's going to be, I'm hoping that New Zealand can take it, because that would be absolutely incredible. But either way, it's going to be just absolutely crazy, full of just, there's going to be lots of people going crazy to see if who's going to win South Africa and New Zealand. But it's been a great campaign either way.
I feel like it's rare to meet an Australian that is into rugby.
I know.
Being in Melbourne, everyone here is into AFL, and no one really even... People know who the All Blacks are, but, you can't go and find a game on any kind of pub screen or anything.
Same with Adelaide. Like, I support the Adelaide Crows in the AFL, and that's like Adelaide and Melbourne's very similar in that prominent like AFL thing. I'm more so like, I guess Sydney and Queensland and stuff is more so like rugby kind of stuff. But because I obviously grew up with my dad and he's an All Black supporter, it was kind of like, well, I've got my Australian team, which is Adelaide for the AFL, but my rugby team, I'm like, All Blacks for sure. Because like, I got to go to like Eden Park for the first time last year and watch the All Blacks absolutely destroy Australia with my dad, and he'd never been to Eden Park either, and that was like one of the best moments of my life. So, anyway,
oh my gosh, amazing.
Anyway, I digress.
Cool.
Thank you so much for joining me, Rachel. It's been such an awesome time to talk to you, listen to Nighteyes, obviously, with the new album coming out as well. I wish you all the best, and all the best with your album as well as your launch show.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into the episode this week. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Rachel and myself. Go check out Nighteyes, listen to the music, and keep an eye out to pre-order and save the upcoming album, The Way Back Down, releasing on November the 10th. Give them a follow on the socials as well. There are links in the description of the episode. As for myself, please leave a rating and a review for the show wherever you listen to your podcasts, and I'll see you next week for a new episode with a new guest here on Chasm Converses.